Hi, it's Paul from Model Builder International. What we're going to look at today is this kit from Platts. It's a 1/72 T2, the late type. This is the one that was used for weapons training. The Mitsubishi T2 first flew in 1971 and entered service in 75 and remained in service until March 2006. A total of 90 production T2s were built, of which 62 were the late version, the armed version. It looks very similar to the Jaguar, basically because it was developed with a similar set of requirements, but it is actually a bit longer and has a completely different profile to it. The late version, this is the armed version, and you can easily tell that by the cannon on the port side of the forward fuselage. Okay, so this is the T2 late type in 1/72 scale by Platts. This is the third, I think, version of the T2. They've done the early type. No, this is the fourth. They've done the display team version, and they've done the CCV version with a big fin underneath. I don't think there's much more they can do with this set of sprues, different versions of the T2. The only thing left is the prototype, and that could easily have been so different as to make it a completely different kit. Let's look on the sides. There's this picture on the sides, a bit of history. On the other side, some close-up pictures, and on the back we've got one of the decal options and what it'll end up looking like. So let's open it up and have a look inside. We get one bag with all the parts, one decal sheet, one instruction sheet. So the instruction sheet is the usual type. Lots of things around the Platts kits remind me of Hasegawa. Instructions, just like Hasegawa's, they open out, exploded views, black and white, paper, lots of part views, and they display everything. On this side, there's all your decal options. What is there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 10 different decal options for that. But we'll go through all that when we go through everything step by step. Decal sheet. There'll be scans of everything on the website. Every image you see in this video and more will be on the website in a higher resolution as well. Their decal sheets, Platts' decal sheets, are really in detail. Printed by Cartograph. There is every single thing you could possibly want is on this decal sheet. The instrument panel, all through to obviously all 10 options, and all the small placards and markings are all on there. I'm always impressed with their decal sheet. The only downside, it takes quite a while to get all these decals on there. There's so much detail in here. And then everything is in this bag. So I'll open this up. This is a resealable bag. Clear parts are in their own bag, 2 sprues, nice and clear as always. And then we have 2 small identical sprues, sprue I, which is basically fuel tanks, air-to-air missiles, and looks like a couple of engine parts, a main wheel. Let's look at these. The ejector pin marks are on the back, they're on the sprues, on the sprue itself, not the parts. Finely raised detail, finely recessed detail as well. This is a new sprue for this particular kit. The main difference between this T2 and the early ones is the cannon. It has a radar inside the nose as well, but the way to tell them different externally is they have a cannon. These are the armed versions of the T2, whereas the early ones are unarmed. So that's why that sprue is in here. Here's a seat. Each seat is made up of several parts. One of the two big ones. There's the cockpit. Oh, some really nice detail there on the rear there. The other seat. Lots of detail for the cockpit. Weapons, or practice bombs. On the back, yeah, I can see the ejector pin marks are all out the way, they won't be visible. Attachment points are all nice and small. And here's the main one, the wings, fuselage halves, lots of fine recessed panel lines, lots of really nice detail. And again, this sort of level of detail reminds me of the latest Asagawa kits. Looks very nice. So what we'll do is we'll go through the instructions step by step, have a close look at the relevant parts in each step, and see what we can see. But so far, it's as good a kit as anybody out there is producing. This is probably going to be the last kit of the T2 from Platts, as they seem to have done all the versions. The only thing left is a prototype, perhaps. They've done the early version, they've done the display team version, and now the late version. And because they've done different versions, there's quite a few extra parts on the sprues. There's 126 plastic parts on 6 sprues, 16 clear parts, a decal sheet, the instruction sheet, and 6 clear parts and 16 plastic parts are not used. Step 1 is reasonably straightforward, and as expected, you put the instrument panels into the cockpit and you put the rear seat in there as well. The cockpit itself has raised instrument detail, but there are also decals for these, so you have a choice of either taking off all the detail and putting the decals in place, or doing some fine painting and painting the raised detail yourself. Step 2 deals with canopy and air intakes. You paint one part of the canopy and you put together the engine air intakes, and it gives you the colour call-outs to paint the interior of the air intakes before you fit them if you want to. Step 3, we put the fuselage halves together, trap the cockpit in between, add the air intakes that you made in step 2, and you add the instrument combing. There's also a couple of 0.8mm holes to drill as well, so don't forget those. Other than that, it seems like a reasonably straightforward step. There's some very nice panel lines on the aircraft, and the level of detail on the surface of this aircraft is very good throughout. In this step we add the lower surface to the main fuselage, and we add the nose wheel bay, and we also add the cannon panel to the front as well. As I said before, this is the obvious external detail that tells you this is a late type T2. And again, there's some holes and looks like a couple of slots to put on the underneath for external pylons when you add them later, should you choose to add them, that is, of course. Step 5 adds the wings. It's a single piece top wing, and you have 2 separate lower wings with some nice detail on those lower wings. You've got some more holes to make before you fit the wings if you want to add pylons to them. You also add the canopy, and you put together the other half of the canopy you didn't do earlier. And you also add the tails and the rudder as well. Step 6 adds the engine exhausts. You can also add these later as well, since they simply slide inside. You can save them for later, paint the main airframe, and then add these in later. You also add a couple of ventral fins, and you can add the air brakes here as well, and you can fit the air brakes either open or closed. Step 7 is all about the undercarriage. It's quite a nicely detailed undercarriage. Each leg is made of That's 3 parts each, plus a clear part for lenses on a couple of them. And it says to fit those at this stage, but obviously you might want to fit them later yourself after you've painted the main fuselage. And there's also a couple of other small parts that get fitted at this same step. Step 8 is reasonably straightforward. You're fitting the undercarriage doors for the most part, so it doesn't get much simpler than that. Step 9 is where you add the external stores. Assuming you've drilled the holes for the pylons, you fit the pylons at this stage. And you get a few different choices. You've got 3 fuel tanks, you've got a CBLS 200 and 4 AIM-9Ls to do with as you wish. And that is the difference between this version of the T2 is it was an armed version. The earlier versions were unarmed and couldn't carry weapons. Okay, down to painting and the decals. First I'll put up a picture of the decal sheet, and as you can see there is an awful lot of decals on here. Platts really go into a lot of detail with their decals, and it'll take you a fair bit of time to actually get everything fitted. As for the actual decal options, there's 10 different decal options you can do. The only thing that really changes is the aircraft number on the tail and the nose, and the squadron insignia that goes on the tail. Other than that, all the aircraft are very similarly painted. Throughout the paints are called out in Mr. Colour and Model Master, so it'd be easy to convert those into something else. But you get plenty of choices, and as you can see, the instructions here are really clear on exactly where things go, even down to decals on the underwing pylons. And so for an overall conclusion, like the earlier versions of the T2 that Platts have done, this is a really nice kit. The instructions are very much like Hasegawa's instructions, and to be honest, the parts actually kind of remind me of their sort of kits as well. You could easily put this in a Hasegawa box and nobody'd know the difference. The panel lines are really fine, lots of nice detail. I'm pretty sure the fit is going to be really nice. So overall, it's an excellent kit. If you want a T2, it is the best one on the market. Platts have now basically covered everything with these, I think, so it'll be interesting to see what they do next. And that, I'd just like to say many thanks to Platts for sending the kit along for us to have a look at. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel to get notified of our next video reviews.